Hi. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today on today's live episode of Black Mental Health Matters. Today, we'll be discussing the topic of racial ambiguity and mental health. As a source of expertise, we welcome Anna Linde and our interviewee, Jennifer. Thank you both. Um, I'd like to start by each of you introducing yourselves professionally, personally, whatever you feel comfortable with, why this topic is important to you, especially since it's such a complex topic in the Black and multiracial communities. So, Anna, if you'd like to go first, and then Jennifer, you can jump in right after.
Sure. Thank you. It's nice to be here. And I'm looking forward to have a conversation about something that is so complicated and still it's not complicated at all. And personally, I'm born in Brazil. I'm adopted, raised in Sweden with white parents as a single child, single kid, and which is interesting, of course. But right now, I live in Thailand. And professionally, I'm a legalized counselor. So I studied cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm doing a racial trauma protocol from the Ottawa University, which I'm able to offer in 4 weeks. And I have a Master of Science in Sexology. So I specialize in racial trauma and sexual trauma. And I think that's what makes sense to say.
Okay, perfect. All right, Anna. Oh, sorry, Jennifer. You're next. Thank you, Anna.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Eden, and I am a producer. So I'm working on building up my own company. But racial ambiguity is something that I've observed in my field of work. So I think that among many things, and as a producer and somebody that has worked in TV and gone to college, I have 3 degrees. So I have a journalism degree, I have a marketing degree, and a business degree. And in each of those areas where you just try to excel and you see other people like yours or like me or that have the same, that are facing these things. I've just I've kind of been a victim, not really, but like there is just trauma from having those experiences. So I just love to be a part of conversations like this to keep improvement and progress going. So in whatever way I can.
Great, thank you. Give me 1 second. I just want to plug in my charger. Okay. I was trying to do it subtly, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. We're all friends here. Okay. So, thank you. So, I'm going to start again with you, Anna. What does the term racial ambiguity mean to you? And then Jennifer, you can hop in right after again.
Not so much because, well, I understand what it means, and this is also interesting because I think all about identity and social identity, we become who we are in a context, like Jennifer was saying, from her perspective and how it is in that industry or in those rooms or that space. But for many Black people in Europe and in Scandinavia, we have to become Black in isolation in a different way because we don't have community as you have in the US, for example. And that's also because, it's like Sweden is a very colorblind society, so you cannot talk about race. And then you get another layer upon it that makes it invisible.
Yeah.
It's just that it's obviously not invisible for anyone.
Right.
So I think I've been talking more about like assimilation or racial isolation or other terms to describe what you are saying with this word or this way. So I think it means all of that. Like it's so much this unpacked,
right,
for me about it.
Jennifer, before you hop in, I just wanted, Anna, you said something that was kind of, I want to say it's like a universal term, regardless of the language, that like a sort of color blindness.
Yes.
Where in fact you're not blind. Color blindness is not. in theory, it's a great thing. But I think when you try to be colorblind, you take away from what people actually are. Like you just said, I mean, you're multifaceted, right? I can't say I'm colorblind to you, or when it comes to you, when you have a background in Brazil, you have a background in Sweden, you have a background in Thailand. So it kind of erases who you are. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Jennifer, you're next.
No, I'm in complete agreement with Anna. I mean, here in the States, I think there's just a level. I don't want to say it's the same because it's not, but I also feel like it's the same because we just have these different levels of, especially in the workplace and especially with mixed children. And it's like, are you Black enough? You're not Black enough? What persona, code switching, all these things to fit in to, so that you can just survive and not feel, literally survive. Like I feel like there's no other word for it, because if you have to put on a persona, it's mentally exhausting, and it can be mentally exhausting to have to continue to put on these different personas based on the community that you're in. So Anna said it best.
So when was each of your aha moments when you realized that this was a thing? Because you're not born knowing this, right? There's a point in time, some people are children, some people are adults, when you say, oh my God, I'm Black, or oh my God, I'm other, or I'm different. So what was your aha moment?
So because my parents are white, and when I say white, it's like Swedish white, like white. Okay. So I think for me, I've been othered all my life. So I haven't had just one like aha moment, realizing that I look different, or that I feel different, I am different, but rather I have a lot of those moments depending on my age, because different stereotypes about race hits differently depending if you are a child, or if you're a teenager, or if you are, whatever you are. So I think I have a lot of those aha moments relating to stereotypes which I couldn't identify, because I didn't have like Black role models growing up. Rather, we had maybe like like TV shows from the US, and then somewhere along the way you also realize that that's not the blueprint of being Black either. So then you get lost again somewhere along the way, and you're like, wait, actually, like I don't even know how to Black. Like it's too hard. I don't know. I take a break from it.
Okay, well, Jennifer, I see you just had an aha moment right there. I saw you respond to Anna, so now the floor is yours.
Yeah, because when she said like I was looking to TV, like from the States, I was having a conversation with a friend about just how some of the stuff we watched in the past, while it's some of it, we like it because we used to watch it and it is something that's nostalgic for us. But a lot of it was a mask. It wasn't real. And it honestly, I think when you say that, I think of the Cosby Show, and I think of, yes, it was great to have like that family setup, but our families, not all of our families were like that. And it was something that all of us worked to attain to, or work to get to, and are still working to. And some of us have attained it, but I don't think people understand how hard it is to do. And then when the racial ambiguity comes in, it's like, well, if maybe like say I'm a Black woman that wants to date a white man, so but my community wants me to be the Cosbys, you know what I'm saying? It can be hard. Now I've married somebody that's Black, but I can see, from that vantage point, like how that can be confusing, and how it can be, just a sense, like crush your sense of self. And that's really important growing up. So, and it does shape how you interact with people in the future. So it's a loop. things.
It's a trap.
It is.
Like in so many ways, it's a trap.
Yeah.
And you find your way out. You're like, I got this. And then you're like, no, I don't gotta get it. Like, I really don't get it. And then it's just repeating.
Yeah.
So thank you both for your answers. Anna, I wanted to delve into, because I'm intrigued. You said at different stages of life, you experience this differently. I would love to know what that looks like.
So you can basically just run all of the stereotypes after each other to see what's going on. But then, being the only Black child in kindergarten, for example, that means that you're always hyper visible, and everybody is obviously going to comment on how cute you are, or whatever things that words that they are using. But those compliments, when you are growing older, become something that is more about you being sexualized, because that's also how the white gaze and the gaze in general look at women. So then you enter something else where you get unwished or unwanted attention, which I think every woman or girl can relate to. But since it's masked with compliments about your chocolate skin, or these creepy compliments, then it makes it harder for, I think, people like my parents or my relatives or people I had around me. It made it really hard for them to realize that that's actually creepy, because somewhere they are having the same idea that, yeah, she is beautiful, or yeah, we also love that side of her, or whatever. So you can go from you are too loud, you are too much, to being very sexualized. And then when you say no, fuck off, then you're annoying again, or you're too much, or you're not behaving as you should, or blah blah blah. And then somewhere you're thrown in between being Black as a stereotype and not being white enough when you're raised white. And then it's like nothing really makes sense. And just to comment of what Jennifer said, like, I have only dated white guys because that's how my look has been. Not like a conscious, this is what I should choose, or this is whatever, ideas people might have. But like, no, that's what I do automatically. And then I realize it and I'm like, wait, I'm doing it again. Like, wait, what is this?
Okay, and also in your defense, I'm sure there's not a ton of people who look like you in Sweden.
Correct.
No. So
that it was not like that when I grew up.
If that's what's in your environment, then that's what you're not going to stay single your entire life, right? So
also,
you try not to.
But it's exactly like that, because then it puts you in some kind of position in the middle. Like, Black people are looking at me and my partner, and they're like, so she did that choice. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, or what? Like, or something. And then on the other side, they talk with my partner, and they're like, oh, where did you find her? And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So it's like you're stuck somewhere in people's ideas about yourself. And I think Black people everywhere on earth can relate to this. And it is problematic in so many ways. And like Jennifer said, it's about the sense of self. Like, what happens with me, with my real sense of myself, and where can I be free? Like, where am I allowed to be me 100%?
Thank you. Jennifer, now this question is for you. And then Anna, I have a specific question for you. But Jennifer, why do you think this conversation is uncomfortable for us as a community?
I think it's uncomfortable because just naturally with anything that we do in this life, to get to the other side of anything that we want to do or be successful, is to conquer our fear and to do the uncomfortable thing and to, correct yourself when when you're wrong. Accountability, like, all of these things are hard for us, or, some of us, or most of us.
Right.
And I think it's really sad because accountability is a great thing because it gets you to where you want to be. Vulnerability are things that, people are afraid to let their guard down. So that it's like, hey, I may have been inappropriate with, saying I'm losing my words, but it's just really a matter of accountability. And I just think that people don't understand how far this reaches if it's not corrected. And my grandmother, I just found out a few months ago, my great grandfather was white. She's mixed, fully mixed now. And it makes sense because she has your complexion, Anna, and she's got green and hazel eyes. And I kind of got a bit of her eyes sometime. And then my cousin has gray eyes. Like his eyes are just different. And you can tell that her siblings weren't. So she had my great grandmother had a relationship obviously with a white man. And that my grandmother came as a product of that, but then her older sisters are Black. But because my grandmother tried so hard to fit in, and especially during the 60s, she lived through the civil rights movement. So imagine having to navigate that because she couldn't quite fully pass. And she had this like fiery blonde hair, it just, I think it ruined her sense of self. And then from then she taught my mother and my aunt on how to like shut yourself down so that you can fit into this box, not because she just doesn't care about their sense of self, but she wants them to be safe. She wants them to be successful. She wants them to live a good life. And honestly, it trickled down to me. And I'm at a point where I just am looking to find myself. Well, I feel like I've found myself because I've had a few experiences over the last few months. And I'm just learning to be honest with myself and have that accountability and have that vulnerability. And in the hopes of, one, having my desires met and have a good life, but also so that I can be an example to everybody else to show that we don't have to be pigeonholed by these things, no matter what, even with everything going on in the world. So yeah.
You mentioned something really important, survival. I think something else, and I'm sure there's a plethora of reasons as to why this is an uncomfortable topic, right? A huge part is accountability, but I think it's also, and each of you can definitely chime in with your opinion. I think it's really hard to admit that racial ambiguity is not something that I don't think was originally set in the stars, right? We were where we were. Europeans were in Europe, Africans were in Africa, Asians were in Asia, etc. But in the, for lack of a better term, whitewashed environment that the entire world is at this point, it's kind of hard to come to terms with the fact and admit that being racially ambiguous has its benefits, but also it comes at a huge detriment to some. Your proximity to whiteness, as we know, will get you indoors, it'll get you opportunities. It will prevent other uncomfortable things from happening to you, but then it also opens up a door for other terrible things to happen, including being shunned by your own communities. So that's I feel like, at least for me in the conversation, we're supposed to be having uncomfortable conversations here. But I think that's why in regular conversation is also uncomfortable, because is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? Or is it just a thing that you deal with and it's what you make it? How do you each feel about that? Or if you have any feelings at all?
I'll chime in. I think it's just a thing, honestly. But because I'm not trying to minimize it, because there are positives and there are negatives. To me, I think the negatives outweigh the positives because of the impact that it has on, well, I guess I could just say negative but the reason I say it's just the thing is because a lot of the times, like, we tend to make things bigger than they need to be, and then they get out of control. And that's what I mean by that. But I do. I think the negatives outweigh the positives in the end. So I guess I would say negative. Sorry.
No worries. This is your opinion. We're here to talk to you. Anna, how about you? Do you even have an opinion on it?
Yes, I'm thinking because I'm raised with so much white privilege. And I have the biggest respect for how my privileges have been, opening access for things or making things possible in so many ways that I think I would never even be close if I wasn't adopted. But what I think is the most negative is that if I play by those rules without understanding that it's a game that I'm, participating in, then I'm hurting myself and I'm putting a lot of other people at risk as well. And I think that was extremely hard for me to navigate when I was a teenager or when I was younger, because I just realized, somehow in a lot of fucked up situations, probably, that I can, with my, class, with my social class, I can, outsource race, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not making anybody happy. It's just, it was a strategy that I was using to try to keep myself safe, because nobody really understood in my environment or my parents what I needed to go through every day in school, on my way to school, and so on and so on. So I think, positive or negative, I think it could be so different depending on where you are in life. But we need to understand, and do it consciously, how we are using those privileges or not, so that we're not stabbing other people in the back and we're not making a mess out of it, because we can use it, in a good way, and we can share it. And if we would do that, everybody's, that has enough or have more of it, then I think we would actually change this from generations to generations. And I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
Can I add a point there?
Go for it.
So, I like that you called it a game, because that's exactly what I meant by it's just a thing, because it is something that you just have to navigate. And what I'm learning is that our parents, well, maybe not your parents, but most parents I've been around or known, they didn't know what they were doing either. So if you're facing that as a teen, where those important formative years, and you don't have that support, and you don't really know how to, some people don't even know that that's what that is. They don't even know how to articulate it. They feel this thing, right? But they don't even know how to say it. And sometimes they might feel like they have a safe space to say it to somebody that they care about, but that person might not have an idea, and then they respond in a negative way, and then it's like, whoa, my world is blown, because it's like, this person is somebody that I spend most of my days with in class or something, and we talk about all these different things, maybe boys, girls, class, all these things, and they feel comfortable to share something like this that they're experiencing, and they don't know how to respond to it. So
we're still living in different worlds.
Yeah. So that's very interesting.
You got your thoughts. I love it. Okay, so Anna, this is for you. You said you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, a master's in sexual health.
Sexology, yes.
Sexology. Okay, got it. So we were talking off camera, and you said that sex and racial ambiguity are connected. Can you explain how that can be? Because I'm really interested.
Oh, there is so many ways. And I think if you just think about it, then you absolutely know that it's connected. It's just that it's hard to put it in words in a way that makes us understand.
Right.
What it is.
When you hear sex and race, you're like, okay, yes, I get it, but I don't. So yeah, definitely break that down for us if you can.
Oh, we could talk until the morning.
This is exciting.
So your evening, we could talk to your evening. And I mean, so first of all, like sexual and reproductive health and rights are universal human rights. So everybody should have them, and they belong to everybody. But if we just look back at slavery and colonization, then we have already there a foundation where Black people have not been having access to those rights. Rather, ideas that were made up about the diaspora or people from the diaspora, made it possible to use our bodies in this way that they were used. And we are all products of that in different ways. We are, because we're also living in a world where these ideas are reproduced. So I think everybody can easily relate to that, but also the knowledge of the science in gynecology is from making operations on Black women without anesthesia. A lot of these things. And then if you think about it like that from a professional point of view, like sexual health and everything that is included, then that we have like institutional racism or systemic racism that is also inside our healthcare systems everywhere in the world. Well, that's not a surprise, really. So to just take, because now I gave an example historically, I gave an example from the healthcare system and institutions, but also who we choose to date. Who do I think is beautiful by which standards? What is attraction? Am I attracted to somebody I feel safe with, like my body and my nervous system feels safe and home with? Or do I feel attracted to somebody that is the opposite because it creates tension? Like, it could be both. It could be either or it could be both. But then why do I think that person is beautiful? And where do those standards come from? And of course, access to sexual health and reproductive health and rights, like birth control pills, or like the access to actually having a clinic close enough in that specific neighborhood or in that context or that country. Like, it's so much about these two things together. But also it's race and sex, it's the embodiment of power and submission also in so many ways. So now we can talk until your evening. Like, I just need coffee.
But you know what? That's what I'm hearing is a lot of it is subconscious. You are, like you said, you question, why am I attracted to this thing, or this particular characteristic in a person? Is it their race? Is it the way that they look? Is it because their hair is kinky? Is it because their hair is not kinky? So yeah, you're absolutely right. When you say it, when you make the connection, you're like, oh, okay. Of course, that's the connection, right? Immediately when you hear sex and race, like, okay, I'm listening. So yeah.
And yeah, like a lot of you mentioned like sexual, reproductive health and the discrimination that happens within that, and it's still happening, like under our face, like in our face, because when the whole abortion situation where in the States, I had a feeling that of course Black women were going to suffer the most, and right now they're keeping a woman alive in Atlanta because the doctors are afraid, because they want to keep the baby alive. And this is them testing this out because it was they were going to take that opportunity to do that. And if people can't see that, then I think people can see it. I honestly, my whole honest opinion is that everybody knows what's right and wrong. Everybody knows what to do instinctually, like they do. We choose. We literally choose because of what is comfortable. And Anna, you said something. I want to hop back just a second about how you dated white men. But for me, as a Black woman, and remembering growing up, like I faced a lot of moments in school where people were either talking about my skin tone being ugly, or somebody would say I was ugly or pretty for a dark-skinned girl. and I felt like none of the Black boys really were attracted to me sometimes. Now, again, that I know that they were hung up in the tropes that we all get caught in with what we watch and how society is and stereotypes. But I remember, like, I had a friend who she was like, I thought you just liked white guys. I was like, well, no, I liked who was talking to me. You see what I'm saying? And at that point, that's who it was. So it's just, I think it all still exists. I think we need to keep having these conversations because it's not going away. And I feel like it's becoming even more nuanced as we move through the years. So I'm interested in learning how we can tackle that as a community globally, because we all are having similar problems. We think that they're so different if we just need to take the time to like listen to everybody's stories and experience. So
you're absolutely right. I do agree with you in the sense where it's becoming more taboo, especially, which is very ironic considering there's more and more of this happening. And it brought me back to something. When I was in high school, I went to like an extreme. Well, first of all, Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia, and it's a very, very diverse city.
Chicago.
Okay, got it. So in this high school that I went to in Philadelphia was extremely diverse as well. So every city or state calls them different, but it calls them something different. But it's zone schools or neighborhood schools. So in Philadelphia, we have neighborhood schools where the people in your high school will probably look like you because it's based off your neighborhood. But then you have other schools that you go into because of your grades or your interests, whatever it is. So then that's when all of the people in the city come together and you're like, oh, all these people. Like I went to school with Bengali people, with I'm pretty sure every country in the world, there was one person there. So that being said, I'm getting to the point. I remember my mother picked me up from school one time and she said, she was seeing all the people and how different everyone looked. And now my mother was born in the 50s. So in Philadelphia in the 50s, you were Black, you were white, or you were Black and white, but usually you were Black or white. There were a couple Asian families, maybe somewhere that owned a store, but you didn't really know where they lived. And then there was the forbidden area where there was a lot of, white Jewish people or whatever it is. Anyway, the point is, she was just saying everyone just looks so different. She didn't know what some of the students were. Were they Asian? Were they Latina? Were they Black and white? Were they Black but just she's just like, everyone looks so different. I did not grow up with this. We were all Black in the same school. So it's just very ironic that this is becoming more taboo as we get closer and closer to everyone kind of, for lack of a better term, and I'm exaggerating, all of us kind of looking the same. We're all mixing, and I'm pretty sure it was a joke, but also kind of true. But I heard years ago that they said in a couple centuries we're all going to be beige because we're mixing so much. So why is this still such an odd conversation or uncomfortable conversation to have when you get it? That's all I wanted to say. Any follow up to that, or can we move on to the next question?
But yeah, so because what I keep, thinking or realizing or saying or asking also, because exactly what you said now, like it's more and more common. How could it be more complicated to talk about it? Or like, how can it be more tricky for us to be who we are when everybody's basically, it's like, it's, we're so mixed and so many layers of everything. But isn't that the problem? That nobody taught us on how to integrate all of the different social identities we have, because none of us are just one. It's not possible. But if we are not, understanding and learning and practicing, and how can I be all of the parts of me? How can I be, holding space for those? How can I accept myself? How do I do that? Like, how do I belong in myself and in my body? And how can I, show that or show up like that for others in a way that just makes me make sense and make everybody else make sense as well? And for me, at least, I think that's something that I keep thinking of, both as my role as being a parent, but also around myself, because my fear of being othered or being, put in a box where I don't belong, because I realize or I feel, or my fear is that I don't belong anywhere. But the truth is, I belong everywhere, though. It's just that I need to get over that and, mentally and, get the support I need to get to that place. Because I think we're good. If we're there, we can handle the most of whatever challenges that comes up. But only when we're there. Before, no. Then we're fighting for our lives.
And I'll add this too. You said you have to get over it. I think society has to get over it, because you were an innocent child that didn't ask to be brought anywhere, or to be, you were just plopped here. And the reality is, kids don't know what's happening. You grow up and you eventually learn what's going on, right? But kids, I will say, when it comes to color blindness, children are colorblind. 100%. They just say, that's my friend. I didn't know that he had 6 arms. I didn't know he had 2 heads, but that's my friend, right? So that being said, I don't think it's anything for you to get over. I think, unfortunately, if you have to get over anything, it's how people treat you, which means they're the problem, right? Not you. But I guess that's a lot of issues in society. Society is the problem, not you.
Yeah, I just mean that since I'm a counselor as well, that as adults, there are strategies and things we can do for me to also get over the idea that I don't belong over there, or it's not possible to get there. So if I can, catch those techniques or those strategies and practice that, then I can show up for myself. And then I can also keep others, more distance, saying, no, that's not for me. Like, I'm not going to do that code switching for you. Or no, I don't think we're a match. Or no, I don't want that job. Or, whatever it is. And then we're also role modeling for the younger generations, how we can be. But you're right, of course, like from a child's perspective, it's not our things to think. But as adults, I would love for people to level this up. Just like,
I have a question for you, Anna, just off of, because I think that with interracial dating and having mixed children, I think I think most of the time that it's common for one person, that couple, to kind of cut one side of themselves off, or even if it's like you have a white woman and a black man, like that black man may cut off. And I'm not trying to talk about, this, sometimes people get all inflamed. This is just me talking.
This is not the place for that, right? Just
it's just like, I feel like nobody should have to cut a portion of who they are off to fit with whoever they're with. And especially as, if you bring a child into the world, I think some don't understand the lift that comes with making sure that child is secure and doesn't have the feelings that you have or my grandmother may have had. And whenever I have mixed friends, I have friends in interracial relationships, and they shy away from the conversation naturally because it's uncomfortable for them. But it's like you chose to be in a interracial relationship, so you knew it was going to be uncomfortable. And I think that most come from a good place when they're raising their mixed children. And they say the color, like, I don't see color. We don't see color around here. But when that mixed child steps out the door, they see it. So I wonder,
at least.
Yeah. So as a child, think, like, just in reflection, what would you say it was that you needed to make, like, that you were looking for? I know maybe a safe space, or if it was somebody to listen to. But like, what did you think what would you need, or what did you feel like you needed to be successful or to overcome those feelings, if that makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I think, first of all, what you said, like this, we're not here to try to pinpoint somebody that's doing something wrong or whatever, because we're not. That's not the point at all, obviously. And I think for everybody, wanting or considering to have this type of conversation, you really need to have each other's back on that one, that the intention of the conversation is what it is. And we're here to learn, we're here to, have each other's back, we're here to level up or whatever that means in that room. So I just want to say that I think everybody should take that with them. Like, we need to have that respect for each other.
Absolutely.
And then I'm thinking, for me as an adoptee, I also didn't know what it means to be Black or to be Brazilian. I had to figure that shit out. And still I'm like, now I get it now. Like, I'm just 38, but I got it now. So when I'm raising my kids, not 100% knowing about my culture, my roots, my language, that's how I talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, I realized the other day with my 15-year-old, I have 2 sons, and I was like, I realized that I haven't been buying you books from Black authors. I just realized that. Like, when they were smaller and I was reading the books, then I always choose, picture books with different type of people and possibilities or functionalities or whatever, because I thought it was so important from the start to show the diversity in the world. Mm-hmm. And then I lost that track somewhere when he started to read on his own. And now I was like, how many books of like African American or African or Black authors do you have? Like, how many are they? And he's like, I don't have any. And I was like, wow.
Well, I want you, don't beat yourself up about that, because there's lots of Black people in the States that don't have Black author like books, because it's something that we just, because we're so focused on, again, like not being othered and trying to fit because we want to survive. We shy away from those things. So now I make it an effort to do those things myself, even now. So, because I think my grandmother taught my aunt and my mom to just just to fit in. So there are things I learned about. There's so much I learned about Black history on my own as an adult that I wasn't taught. And it wasn't because they didn't want me to know those things. It was because they wanted me to focus on doing what I needed to do just to be successful. So, and most of the time that is fitting in with the white, community, like, just molding yourself to be palatable. I hear that all the time, to be palatable, and that is rough, right? That's hard to hear. So give yourself some grace on.
Yeah, it's just, when these things hit, you're like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
You mentioned.
Then you talk about it.
Oh, sorry.
No, what did you say?
No, Jennifer, you mentioned such a perfect term, palatable. And I'm going to go deeper with that. It's crazy to think that some people are just, and this isn't me agreeing, this is me just saying what it is, right? Some people have to try to be palatable, and some people are just born palatable. So how do you navigate that when you're born palatable and when you're not, especially when one of your parents doesn't look like you, one of them does, or maybe both of them don't, because genetics are a crazy thing, right? Sometimes you're like, I swear these two are my parents, but you look nothing like them. But in society sees that and they question you. Oh, are you sure you're part of the family? Ha ha ha. Not realizing how hurtful that can be, or traumatizing. But yes, palatable. There are some people that are palatable, and then how do you try to be? And should you be trying to be? That's tough. That's a tough space to be in, and also a very uncomfortable conversation for people to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So next. And we're going to wrap this up soon, but I could talk to you both all day about this topic, or listen to you talk for sure, because I love your opinions and your perspectives. But I wanted to ask you each, where do you think the gaps are, and how can we fill those gaps? So Anna, you speaking your very unique situation, being from Brazil, being raised or adopted and raised in Sweden, living in Thailand. Where are we missing the gaps in society and families, wherever you see fit?
So I think the first thing that I think is worth remembering is that the gaps looks different from everybody, and it looks different depending on which time we're in and which context we're in. And that's because it shifts. Everything shifts depending on where we are and which time we're in. And I think if the goal is for me to be, authentic, I can feel that I'm authentically, and I'm myself, and I know what my gut feeling is telling me about things, and I know that I have the right to have boundaries, then I can navigate a lot of context and a lot of spaces and a lot of things in my life. And if I can, I can give that experience to my kids or to other people, treating them like that, then I think we're kind of on the right track. But that means that I cannot, because we are so fast in putting things in this, what do you call it? Like either or things, or like good or bad, or like right or wrong, or like nice, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why do we want to be in the black and white scale when we have like 100 shades of gray in everything? It's like, how many words do we have to describe complexion or brown, skin color brown? How many words do we use compared to other things that we're describing in color? And it's just like, it doesn't make sense. So I think that, like, to actively practice to not do the either or thing, not use that type of language, not to talk about things, not to value things or people like that, because then we're actually giving ourselves a chance to see all of the other dimensions and nuances in those personalities, people, situations, meetings, connections. So I would like for everybody to start there.
Thank you. All right, Jennifer, where are the gaps in your opinion?
In my community, I think we're still fighting for a lot of access to a lot of things. A lot of Black people in the community don't have passports. I think that's a huge thing. Like, just simple things that, like, Anna, you're from Brazil. Your parents are from Sweden, and you live in Thailand, and you have all this rich cultural experience. And honestly, I love Brazil. I've always wanted to go Brazil. Like, I love the music from Brazil, and those things matter. Like, for me, I've been lucky enough to have access. I've been able to travel. I got married in Ghana. So, like, I've been able to see the world, and I think some of us haven't seen the world. So I think that we need to just find spaces where, one, we are able to do these things, but also there need to be spaces where, we have these conversations more and more, because that's the only way it's going to change, is if we do have these conversations. So I think the gap here is just because of how just disorienting living in the United States can be, especially right now. I think most of our focus is, one, survival, and then politics, because a lot of us here base our identity on politics. So I just think that having those conversations, and then I'm still trying to figure out a way where, like, even your intimate relationships, your friends, like, there's got to be a way where we have more of those conversations. I have white friends that are, again, married to Black men, and some I still talk to, and some I realize, like, we hung out and it was great in college and stuff like that. And but then once they had their Black man, it was like, bye. But why is that the case? Like, I think we just need to sit in the gap is sit in the uncomfortability of it all, and just be vulnerable, and just respect what people are, listen, and just be patient, and just understand that just because they're speaking on something doesn't mean it's about you. It's literally about them and their experience. And then you share yours and then you meet in the middle. And I think that's just, I think that the gap, meet in the middle. That's where it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Right there.
What I'm hearing is everybody just needs to grow the hell up. That's my interpretation. Everybody needs to grow up, get their heads out of their butts, and just be present and be accountable and just listen. It's not, like you said, Jennifer, it's not about you, it's about them. What can we all do within reason? What can we do to make everybody just feel okay being themselves? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay. You know, you are half white, half black. Okay, great. What do you love about your mom's side? What do you love about your dad's side?
Mm-hmm.
Those things are valid, you know? Okay, your black side likes to do family reunions and the white side likes to summer in the Hamptons. That's great. You can love both of them. You are not any less of either side because you like the Hamptons and the cookouts in South Carolina. You know, just a random situation I was thinking about. But, you know, it's just, yeah, everyone needs to grow up and just accept people for who they are and accept, and then people will be able to accept themselves and love themselves unconditionally without the outside noise.
Yeah, and I feel like if we can just do that, we'd have these wonderful, beautiful experiences of just learning about each other. I love learning about other cultures and experiencing other cultures, and we can benefit from these things. Like, we don't have to be so apart, right? Like, we just need, there's a barrier. The barrier is that we all are in different spaces and we do things just a little differently.
Right.
And we just let that put us in the corner and stop us from doing from connecting, because with the connection comes great things. So, but again, it also starts with a sense of self, a positive sense of self. So
yeah. No,
but it makes sense. Like, all of the things that you just said, for me, it's like this could all be true in the same time. Though. Like, we don't need to say, like, people, because we're so easily get in this like either or thinking. But I'm like, no, all of that can be true in the same time. And when you guys are saying, like, it's not about you, but what I usually say at work, it's like, don't take it personal.
Yes.
Like, do you need to take that personal?
Yeah.
Really? Like, I don't think you do. Like, you can just put that at the side and just sit with it.
Because most of us are mirrors to each other. So,
what did you say?
Oh, I said because most of us are mirrors. We mirror each other, so we see things that trigger us. Like, if I'm looking at Anna and I'm like, oh, I don't like Anna because she does this. It's like, oh, well, what do I need to check? Because that's what it is. You see what I'm saying? So. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but it's for somebody told me in another, whatever it was, last week, and they're like, why do you always look so like that? And I'm like, look how? Like, how? They're like, why are you always like dressed up? And I'm like, it's 28 degrees in here. Do you think I should have long sleeves? Like, I'm not going to make it. Like,
why are you?
And basically,
what was that? Like, there was about something else, and then it doesn't matter. But it's also like, I don't need to take that personal. And also to just be, when you use the word accountable, I'm also thinking it means that we need to be, brave enough to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Sit with that. Like, sit with that. Don't talk all the time. You sit and listen, learn, like, because we need to start somewhere.
Yeah. And we need to start there, like we're saying. Yeah. We all have perspectives that need to be changed, tweaked a little bit, that we can build on, and just be able to say, I was wrong, or that's a way of thinking that I didn't consider. One thing we can all confirm is that we have never been that person or that person. We've only ever been ourselves. So within reason, of course, right? Because there are some people where it's just like, no, that's definitely on you. But in a lot of situations, this is my experience, and my experience isn't wrong. It's just not yours. But that requires you to come outside of yourself and acknowledge, wow, I'm not always right. And there are ways that I can improve myself and my thinking, and people do not like that. That makes people very uncomfortable, as we've been saying. So all that to say, I would like to know from either of you, is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel the audience needs to hear? You need to get it out, because I would love to just put a perfect bow on this and make sure that you guys really delivered the message that you wanted to today.
In one sentence? Like how would you define one sentence?
Well, whatever. The floor is yours. However you feel. There's no time limit. But whatever you feel like is really tugging, and you're like, if you walk away from this with anything, this is what it should be.
Then I think, because you said sometimes it's hard for people to say that they were wrong, or that I might not be right all the time, or every time, or even close to half all the times. But I'm thinking there is no guarantee that being right is the way to get connected. For me, it's the opposite, because you're either then right or wrong. Like that's not necessarily helping you to be with somebody in an experience or in a conversation. Because if I put myself in the position that I am against you, or I am looking at you when you are telling me this because I am different than you, or you are different from me, then that will mirror the conversation we're going to have, because nobody feels safe talking in this way or in that way. But rather how we are talking here, when we're like, no, we're here together and this matters and it's important and you're important and you are, and all of us are, sharing and building on each other's thoughts and feelings, and everything is okay, then, that might be something for the people listening, that don't go into that trap of right or wrong or either or, because it's not like, it's really giving you connection.
Yeah. There's nothing good over there.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I still go there sometimes and I'm like, oh shit. And then I'm like,
Thank you, Anna. Jennifer, how do you feel?
Well, I would bounce. I'm just going to add on to what Anna said. Just the only thing I would say is, well, one thing that I've been trying to do is, when I've been faced with a different perspective, or maybe something that seems like it's the same thing that triggers me in a way, is to kind of like take a pause and say, okay, well, why is this triggering me? Because if it keeps coming up and you keep shutting it down because you don't want to deal with it, it's gonna show up in your life in some case, and it's gonna keep showing up if you don't deal with it. So what I like, if somebody is saying something to me and I'm just like, what is this? What are you talking about? Like, why are you even saying this? I'll just go, okay, why am I so triggered by this? Why am I? So take a moment when you have those moments, because if you're reacting, there's something happening, and we just react. A lot of us just react, and our emotions get the best of us, and we say things we don't mean, which again makes things even more worse. Like, it's a cycle. So just take a pause when you see something, or when you're hearing a different perspective from somebody. Now, I'm not saying take disrespect, of course, like, everybody deserves to be treated, with respect and care. But if there's something that you're having a conversation and you're really just agitated by what you're hearing, just listen. Don't fight it. Just listen, because whatever's going to come out of your mouth in the moment might not be the best. So just take a moment.
Isn't it crazy how we learned all these things as children, and as adults we just completely threw them out the window? You were told to listen, think before you speak. Consider, like, it's just all these things we're taught, and now we just said, screw it. I just say what I want when I want it. And truly, we could learn from children. They are colorblind and insensitive and intentional. And then you have us as adults just flailing around, just ruining the community. But hey,
we don't necessarily know how it feels to be heard.
Yes.
So even if somebody taught us that when we were children and we were, practicing or repeating it, but if I get so triggered by something in a conversation that I just, react, like, it can be so hard to go back to a place where I'm actually listening with my body and my senses, and I allow that person to, affect me, or I feel what this person is talking about if I'm not feeling heard in my friendship, work, or whatever context that it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like it could be too hard. And then this thing about taking a break, I usually tell my clients that. I'm like, no, tell them you are too triggered. You need to take a break. You need 10 minutes. You need a walk.
And I would agree. I totally agree with that too. Like, you have to be able to communicate. And I think we're pointing out another gap here, because we're all in this cycle of how society has been, and we're generations in, right? Hundreds of generations in. The first step is learning how to listen, learning how to relax, learning how to communicate when you are triggered, because that is a key point that I missed, because you do have to communicate that. Just learning how to communicate that in a way that's not like, rah, like, you know what I'm saying? Just, okay, hold it for a moment. I'm a bit triggered right now. Let's have this conversation on another day. I'm open to having the conversation, but right now I want to have it in a productive manner, and I don't think that I can do that at this point. So let's table it, and most don't. So
no, it's too hard in that situation. But also what we're saying now, I think also a reminder for people listening that if I don't feel heard in my relationships or my situation or people around me, then that's a problem, obviously. But it's also like, how will I know when I feel heard then?
Yeah.
Like, what is necessary? What do I need? What are the components or the keys or the words that I need to hear? Or like, how do I feel seen and heard or accepted or held or safe? Or like, because if I didn't identify that for myself, I'm living in an idea that everybody else have the same idea of what that means. And that's also not creating, vulnerability, but it's also not helping us to connect. And then we're still in this big ass difference and between ourselves, distance between ourselves. Yeah. So we like more gaps. You're asking us to wrap it up. We're like, no, we need this.
No, we just keep going.
No, because this is an infinite topic until it's solved. Until this is no longer an issue. And I hate to say this, but it's just reality. It's going to be a long time. We may not be here to see. We probably won't be here to see it, But what we can do is hope for our children and their children that it gets better. Something I have noticed in society, I haven't been around here long, but I have noticed in life, each generation gets better in some ways and a little bit worse.
Yes.
So we're trying to find the happy medium. We're trying to find equilibrium. But maybe that's just what being human is, improving. I mean, I think that's exactly what being human is. There's things that and I'm sure you can both relate, things that I've drastically improved in over my years of life. And other things where I'm like, okay, you used to be better at this. What's going on? So that's just life, but we can only do our parts. And and thank you each for your perspectives, for your expertise, for your patience, and for the impact that each of you has, whether it be big or small, in your surroundings and your communities and all that stuff. I genuinely appreciate the human beings that you are.
Yeah, same here. I was going to say thank you guys for being you. So,
of course. Like, that's the only thing we can be, right?
Yeah.
So yes, and for our audience, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Black Mental Health Matters. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'll see you next time.